spies that U.S. law enforcement and intelligence officials believe were responsible for tracking Russian defectors and their families here in the United States. In at least one instance, Wolf, the FBI and intelligence officials were aware of a group of Russians who were believed to be trying to case someone who had been resettled inside the United States as part of a CIA program. This is a CIA program that provides new identities to protect people who have resettled inside the United States, people who have helped the CIA, provided information to the CIA in the past. This raised concerns among FBI counterintelligence officials who thought that perhaps the Russians were preparing to target at least some of these people. We reached out to the Russian embassy here in Washington. They did not respond to our request for comment. The CIA and the White House and the FBI all declined to comment for this story, Wolf.
Shimon, how long have U.S. officials been concerned that the Russian espionage agents might be tracking Russian emigres who have resettled here in the United States?
Well, it's probably fair to say that this concern has been around for some time, but everything changed after the attack in the UK in March, where it was the British spy, Russian intelligence officer, who, as we all know, there was an attempt to kill him. There was this nerve agent that was used to try and kill him. So certainly everything changed after that. When the FBI and U.S. officials started seeing what some of the Russians here were doing, it certainly changed everything. They grew very concerned that, in fact, perhaps they were collecting intelligence on the whereabouts of some of these people. And so it became a matter of national security for them. Look, there's no secret here that the Russians would try to pull off something like this here. There is great concern among law enforcement officials and certainly people at the FBI that something like what happened in the UK could happen here.
Congress, Evan, has been concerned about this for a while.
That's right, Wolf. Look, I mean, I think it's no secret that there's a long list of suspicious deaths that have happened in the United Kingdom, in Europe, and you know, the concern among officials over there and here in the United States is that the same thing could happen as a result. And it appears that the Russians have become emboldened that they can get away with this stuff. The Democrats on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee put together a report earlier this year. And I'll read you just a little piece of the report. It says, the trail of mysterious deaths, all of which happened to people who possessed information that the Kremlin did not want made public, should not be ignored by Western countries on the assumption that they are safe from these extreme measures. Wolf, the concern here, obviously, is that you know, the Russians seem to believe that they can pull these things off and get away with it, and everything, that the calculations about how to protect these people has changed as a result.
Yeah, back in 2006, as you guys report, in July 2006, a law was passed in Russia that permits the assassination of, quote, enemies of the Russian regime. That was back in 2006. What is U.S. law enforcement doing about this potential threat? Do they believe, for example, any Russian emigres who have defected to the United States have actually been killed on U.S. soil?
I don't think there's any concern that people have been killed there in terms of from the FBI side. And the FBI would ultimately be the folks who would be tracking this and following the Russians. Look, there's a very robust counterintelligence unit at the FBI that does this kind of work, that follows some of these spies, does surveillance, does their own spying on the spies. So that's all that they can really do. You know, they've certainly ratcheted up some of those efforts, and they've put more intelligence together to try and figure out and to really make sure that nothing that happens, anything similar that happened in the UK happens here. But the mere fact that the Russians were able to locate some of these people, and there are brazen attempts at following them, doing surveillance on them, learning more about some of these people who've resettled here, certainly has concerned U.S. officials.
Very often I'm told that some of these Russians who have come to the United States and are working with U.S. law enforcement, with the CIA, they still have relatives back in Russia. And that's one way the Russians can find.
They can have leverage on them. And also, a lot of them still do business.